NATO's top military officer says European countries need to spend more on defence because they're free riding on American funding. Officials warn the US-led bloc is rapidly losing effectiveness and unity. Crisis-hit NATO states forced to slash their spending, of course, have already chopped $45 billion off their alliance treasury, the equivalent of Germany's entire military budget. The number of European troops in the US-led bloc has also plummeted from 2.5 million in 2000 to 1.86 million. And while the US is also trimming its defense spending, its share of the budget has still risen to 75% in total. So the benchmark of spending at least 2% of GDP on defense is now only being achieved by 3 NATO members. And as RT's Tessa Celia reports now from Brussels, the rift between alliance members is growing.
The NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen had actually come out and warned its partners against the danger of more defense spending cuts, as we've already seen, especially from its European partners. Now, this opinion was also echoed by the outgoing U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta. He said that if this trend does continue, that the alliance, it could be in danger in moving into what he called a collective military irrelevance. So there's the question of whether or not NATO will actually still be relevant given the decrease in its capabilities, an opinion also echoed by the former U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates. The problem that NATO is facing when it comes to budget is no small matter. If we just look back to more than a decade ago, in 1999, the EU had a goal of having 60,000 troops, for instance, available for battle in so-called Eurocorps. However, today we see that these battle groups range from about 1,500 to 2,500, clearly a huge difference from the initial intention in the number of troops that they had planned to have. The cuts that we're seeing as far as the Europeans are concerned, clearly it's because of the Eurozone crisis. The priorities have clearly shifted, and there's not much enthusiasm to increase spending in the military. We also see here in the alliance some sort of an unequal burden sharing. The United States share has increased from 50% to now 75%, and there are signals coming from the U.S. that they are not keen on continuing the kind of partnership with this sort of inequality, and also looking at the U.S.'s own budget cuts as well as its shift in priority, especially after we've heard that pivot to Asia. So they have their own concerns, so they're questioning the kind of reliance and the kind of partnership that they have, especially with European countries. Moving forward, they're also facing some lack of enthusiasm from European members, such as Germany, for instance, who's not very eager to contribute to any military operations. So again, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, the NATO Secretary General, had come out saying that the capability of NATO will be impacted. And there's the question of critics on the actual relevance of the alliance, seeing that there's not much enthusiasm from its members to contribute or to give more into the alliance moving forward.
And RT contributor Afshin Ratansi says the multi-billion-dollar wars NATO has waged in the past 15 years have left a legacy of death and destruction that fuels instability around the globe.
Journalists from all over the world seem to be covering this straight line that NATO is this complex system of fine military generals and military armor, when of course every time NATO goes into a country it ends up in either disaster or blowback. Disaster as it has been in Libya, which has given power to however many militias, and of course one only has to look at Afghanistan to see what it's done there. Not many people actually covering the aftermath of the war in Yugoslavia to see whether Kosovo is better off now than it was before the Yugoslav hostilities started. So perhaps the worst fears would be that the NATO drone attacks that kill so many children in the Afghan border regions and so forth will result in profound blowback, and even as we might be seeing, of course we have to speculate, the kind of homegrown terrorism we saw 7/7 here, as different groups within NATO countries seek to identify themselves with the dispossessed, i.e. those murdered, maimed or bereaved by NATO's armies over the past 10 to 15 years.